We're talking islands. Sweet Tay. Hey, respect. Great to see you back. This is, well, it's sweetened, but it is a non-calorie sweetener. Though, Bubonic, I agree. I enjoy unsweetened iced tea. Hey, no problem. Just let me know, all right? And if you need help getting invested in that, and I don't just mean financially. I mean like if you want to go out and do this stuff, let me know so I can help you out. You're doing a great thing by teaching others how to play D&D, Dark Wolf. I want to encourage that, and I respect that greatly. Cringes in Southern. Well, look, in fairness, I was born in Southern Ohio. That's Florida, by the way. And I do say y'all, and I say soda. And I know Dark Wolf can say that too. Everyone else up here calls it pop. But I never really had a Southern accent. Some of the verbiage. But where I was in Florida, you actually have to go north to get a Southern accent. The further south in Florida you get, the more northern it gets. Clark also, when directly asked whether or not she wants to play D&D, Ms. It's Clark 17 gave a serious and resounding no, followed by the third death stare of the night. Well, she doesn't have to play, but let's say she really likes dragons, and let's say that she really likes people who can use magic. And we accidentally make a dragonborn sorcerer. Darkwolf says my tea must be sweet. No, the bitter taste of justice in unsweetened tea. Bubonic, I like tea in all forms. Your favorite is Earl Grey hot. Oh yes, so like Captain Picard. For the longest time, I don't know, unsweetened tea was a thing. Yes, it is a delicious thing. It can be an acquired taste, but oh, unsweetened tea, nom nom nom. If you want to buy in from the Ms., invite friends over, whoop it up, and have a good time and get her curious. I had to do that with my wife. So there you go, Caden. There you go, Clark. Caden is you like 20 years from now or whatever. I don't know, maybe not 20. Probably more, probably less. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. But anyway, hi, Caden. Hi, Caden. I'm speaking with my drawer. We are talking islands, right? We're talking a seafaring campaign. We are talking about stuff related to sailing, because it seems that we are going to have a sailing themed campaign based especially off of Janet Passer, who was our lawful good pirate with a bad reputation. She left such an impression on us that we all thought, yeah, let's continue this. And this is kind of an off week for Mesotopia. Not that these people can't visit, because there's a lot of water in Mesotopia. Though we have a transmutation wizard, so we can get water breathing and all that other good stuff. And then we have a warlock who took the Pact of the Blade from her patron of an archfey of some kind. How do we work that into islands? Oh, easily enough. Easily enough. She is apparently aboard this ship with the others because she was framed for a crime she didn't commit and went into a hermitage that way. I was just pulling a number out, Caden. Don't worry about it. Your sweet tooth is 80% for drinks. Pirates of the Mesotopian. Hey, Maddie, say howdy, lamb, with your southern drawl. I bet it'd be amazing. Howdy, lamb. Howdy, lamb. Does that work, Eltreon? Did that achieve the desired effect? You know, it's fun when I get to dust off that accent with certain characters. There was effectively a sheriff character in one of my D&D campaigns, and he had an old hound, like an old tracking hound, and the dog's name was Pooper. But when you put it through the twang, you know, it's like, Pooper, Come on over here, Pooper. Pooper. The ER, right? It kind of becomes kind of like an A. Pooper. Or like an EH instead of an ER. Get on over here, Pooper. Come on now. Come on, Pooper. There ain't nothing over there. You know better. Skyrim is a gateway to D&D. Oh. Okay, so we have island options, right? We said that Mesotopia is a Mediterranean style. In fact, we can even look up Greek islands. So during the break, I pulled up a lot of different references. What are the types of islands that exist around the world? Where would we like to base this this kind of one-shot campaign in? And I thought we could look at some of the biomes that exist all around. Game of Thrones stuff and that point of similarities. My wife started playing when I invited some of her friends to play. They were into D&D, so we ran a campaign with them. Yes, that is a good way of doing it, Caden. Bubonic, I've lived in all regions of the eastern U.S., so I've had unsweetened and sweetened and real southern sweetened. Plus, my grandma is a hot tea drinker, and I found I like the taste of Darjeeling tea and Earl Grey. For some reason, I like the bergamot orange too. Hey, that's not even just some random reason. There's that makes sense. Okay, so Eltreon, that works. That makes the second time I have heard a person actually say it. What do you mean? Say what in particular? If we're looking at a Mediterranean-style island, right? Because we're thinking of the region, the climate, the geology, and the geography. You know, here we typed in Greek islands. Look at some imagery. Is this the type of place that you would want to see your campaign, in which you'd want to see your campaign occur? You know, you look at the water, you look at the cliff sides. You know, these do not appear to be volcanic islands, right? Probably sedimentary rock, things along those lines. You got to be careful about scrolling through some of these pictures. Fishing for octopi right over here. Caves and coves and all that. Mountains, very mountainous. You know, here's a map of the various Greek islands that exist. You know, piracy and other things existed here, as it did not just in the Caribbean. Clark says, I can hand her the keyboard and you can try and convince her directly, but I doubt you'll get much of any sort of response. I think her mind is pretty much made up, Caden. The howdy lamb, my boss's daughter, is the only person that I've met that actually says it without a prompt. Well, but didn't you prompt me to say it with a southern accent? Or am I missing something, Altreon? Because it's almost more of like a French, like how de lamb. Now, I'm going to save this one. So, here's some inspiration for Greek Isles, right? Think of the climate. We're more tropical, right? It's probably not going to see a lot of snow. You're going to get, I mean, it'll rain and such, but you're probably not going to get harsh winters here. Not really volcanic, probably static, a lot of sedimentary or because of tectonic movement. Now, let's look at mangrove islands. And we can take this to be a base, like a realistic base, or we can base it on fantasy, where you have mangroves, which are seeds that float around and they will spout up trees. Well, the trees grow in the water, and they will eventually, you know, the roots will go down and they'll catch on sand or sediment. And suddenly, more sediment will accumulate around the roots. other seeds will bump into each other. And now we have a natural artificial island made by these trees. So you can, you can have an island that is nothing but trees growing up out of the waters. If you want to build upon it, realistic fashion, or if we want to say this is a high fantasy setting, maybe we just have islands that float around. They're actually not fixed to anything. Everything is based on these mangrove islands, right? I mean, wouldn't that be fun, right? You're going down these little mangrove canals, things like that. So you see how that works? Now, there can also be artificial islands. So this is where people will dump trash or sediment or whatever out into an area in order to fill in the water and create an island that way. And then they'll dump sand or something else. And you can see, now this is a real artificial island. And you can see they made it in the shape of a palm tree. And they're developing on it, right? You drive piles into the ocean floor, build up sand, help protect against the tides and weather, and there you go. Do we want these to take place on a series of artificially made islands? What would that mean? Could that speak to wealth, engineering? Maybe it's the work of, if you want to call the work of gods like artificial, I don't know. You could always use duct tape to a chair. That works sometimes, says Caden. Respect says, fun fact, Greece's approximate latitude in the U.S. runs from North Carolina to Southern California. By the way, Respect, you brought up a very good point. If you live in a certain part of the world, use latitude lines to determine weather, temperature, climate. That is a very good point. Where are these other locations that you could equate it to a weather pattern or an area with which you're already familiar? Good addition, Respect. Thank you. It's Clark says Monka S. That's the thing, that she's blatantly interested in the game and enjoys watching and whatnot, but doesn't want to play. And you know what? Hey, Mrs. Clark, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're showing an interest because people are being imaginative, they're laughing, having fun, some people just enjoy coming along for the ride. They want to be entertained. You treat it like reading a good book or watching a movie, and you're there with them, effectively. You're there right along with them. And it's great that you have an interest in doing that. You're doing something that a lot of other significant others don't. And a lot of us gamer types, we wish that we had significant others that who would be at least remotely interested in this as a hobby. So, I mean, you're already getting points for being halfway interested. You're in there starting to take a dive again? Oh, here I was giving an honest compliment to your significant other, Clark. Sounds like a druid paradise. Oh, you mean the mangrove islands? Caden, I don't like putting on makeup. Doesn't mean I won't watch my wife put it on. There you go, Caden. Civil Hermit, it's just a board game. Nothing to be intimidated, right? Who doesn't like board games? Hey, yeah, that's right. D&D is a board game. Islands of the Irish Sea, which are rocky and cold. Yep, we'll get to something along those lines. So think about that. Do we want to play in artificial islands? Ah, here's something I'm familiar with. The Lake Erie Islands. Now, how did these come to be? You can imagine Ohio, a lot of deciduous trees. It's surrounded completely by fresh water. Well, during the Ice Age, you had the large glaciers pushing down from the north, and they scooped out the basins that would become the Great Lakes. The islands are nothing more than the land that was just, for whatever reason, passed over by the glaciers or unscooped or whatever. In fact, if you go out to Kelly's Island, they have a small park there called the Glacial Grooves, and you can still see where the glaciers grooved and scored the surface of the stone. So in this case, we have islands that were created by geological phenomena. Glaciers carved out the basins, melted and filled in the basins, and we have great freshwater lakes because of that. Also, what are the islands made of? In our case, here in our part of northern Ohio, we have an exceedingly good quality of limestone as a sedimentary rock. Our region, I forget the name of it. There's a particular name for it, but we have a very high quality limestone, and in fact, a lot of the islands have quarries. Well, because those were used to build the houses, but also build roads and other things that use limestone. And so imagine what your islands are made of too. Are they made of roots? Is it made of sand, igneous rock, sedimentary rock? Were they carved out by glaciers? Were they sprouted up by tectonic plates coming up like that above the surface? Were they created by volcanic effects like the Hawaiian Islands? Hey, Evelyn, good to see you. The Finger Lakes are a better ideal of the Glacier Lake than the much larger Great Lakes. Well, and that is something for people to research if they want to look that up too. I agree with Wonick. We can consider a lot of different sources. Should I just give her the keyboard so she can talk? Yeah. Come on, don't be afraid. Come on, talk to us. We're good people. Look, if anything else, Dark Wolf is our den mom. She'll keep us in line, okay? Caden, Maine's entire coast was carved up by Ice Age chunks. We have larger coastline than California because of all the islands left behind. Yes. In fact, I'm glad you said that, Caden. I should have indicated, I put in Atlantic Island. I really meant to be like Atlantic Seaboard or to go to Maine. I completely agree with you, Caden. There are still islands along Maine's coast that are still uninhabited because there's so many of them. Yes. We'll get there. We will get there. Images, Florida Keys. All right, good. Nothing spring break. Okay. So then you have the Florida Keys. You know, you look, it's a natural extension off of the tip of Florida. And so in this case, we had something that at one point in time was probably a part of this Pangean one continental landmass or something along those lines. Due to drift over time, you had portions of it break off. Look at South America and Antarctica. If you want another example of continental drift and leaving islands that, you know, kind of linger in like a trailing drift off of something. So do we want our islands to be like this, where they're actually close to to the mainland of some kind, and they just need connected by short boat rides or by bridges? So maybe the Florida Keys are an example where we want a big mainland close by, but we want a bunch of little islands afterwards. Growing up, I had a lot of fun in the Florida Keys. We stayed actually on, we stayed on Marathon Key. My family had a place there. I mean, it was like a timeshare. But we would go to Marathon Key, and we'd go fishing on a deep sea boat called the Marathon Lady. And I have lots of good memories of doing that. And of course, you go to Key West, you go to Lime Key. All right, gang, fire away with questions. I'm going to sleep. Can't guarantee she'll even be around long, but she's going to have my laptop. Go easy. She doesn't understand Twitch emotes. That's fine. I think we've just been doing smiley faces and whatnot. And Dark Wolf gives in a woo in welcome. Now, as I'm going over this information then, what would you like us... I mean, do you want to be known as Ms. Clark? Or It's Clark 2? Or what kind of a handle? How should we know you? Reveal your identity. Who is your character? I'm going to put this over here. Now, do you want to base it in... Hey, Norton the Knoll is here. And don't worry, he is a friendly Knoll. Norton is a good Knoll. Alright? Now, we could look at a fantasy-based, or if you want to call them like the Irish Islands or whatnot, look at Game of Thrones, right? You have the Iron Islands. They're northern, they're harsher, right? You do get winter. You get cold water, freezing rain, that kind of a thing. You know, we're talking Vikings. Are we placing this in real geography somewhere? Belly rubs and ear scritches aplenty for Norton the Knoll. Oh, King, you're a big ol' softy. So, if you have fantasy sources that describe places like this, look, in the Iron Islands, they are, you know, like jetties of rock, but vertical ones, right? And they've built castles and such atop the islands. It's not even sea level or going up. And so you can have a series of islands that has the residents living atop them. And how are they making their living? What are they doing? Now, in this case, many of them were pirates or reavers, things like that. But think of the architecture. Think of the climate. How harsh are the winters here? You guys just add his name. Whenever someone adds him, it highlights the message. Oh, yeah, but so as you've taken over for Clark, since he apparently, well, he tired himself out shoveling all that snow, do you want us to refer to you by a different handle? Hey, Buddha Belly is here. Welcome. Do you want us to refer to you as another way while Clark is laying down? Bubonic gnolls are great creatures, one of the most underestimated and underused D&D monsters that can be seriously dangerous. Yes, I took them, I agree, Bubonic, I took them and I rebranded them as a similar but different type of creature. And they have their whole own culture. I've developed it. It's been a lot of fun playing with them. So, if you want something more real, look at islands around Ireland, or if you want to go further into, you know, Netherlands, Denmark, and such, or you can base your concept in fantasy, right? So here's a concept of pike in the Iron Islands. Do we want to go to Polynesian islands? Now these tend to be more, you know, if you think of the Hawaiian Islands and such, here you'll find a lot of volcanic activity. So these are islands that they're artificial islands made by nature, you know, through if you want to call them artificial, right? It wasn't continental, but nature found a crack and whoop, islands grew up out of the sea over time. You know, look at Hawaii, look at the Tahiti, look at all these Polynesian islands. Is this the type of climate, the type of temperatures, the type of seasons that you would want to have your adventures sail around in? Again, I got to be careful here because we might come across some cultural pictures that I don't want to get in trouble for. Well, hey, here's our Caribbean. And now in this case, you would be taking, these are tropical, but instead of being more, you know, aboriginal or native like Polynesian islands, here we have a Western, you know, we have a Western European culture and influence that was brought into this region. And so you'll have a lot of the same, you know, weather and plant life, but the architecture and the culture and the religion is going to end up being different. Would you want your adventures to take place in this kind of environment? Because think of culture, think of other things too. Culture's a reflection of the environment. Or do we want to go to the Aleutian Islands? Right? This is the archipelago coming off of Alaska. Let me see if we can. So it's very mountainous, right? Bob Ross spent a lot of time in Alaska. Does this stuff look familiar to you? If you ever watch his stuff? Very mountainous. You know, again, you want to talk about continental drift. You want to talk about the Bering Strait and the Bering Sea. You want to talk about harsh weather, snow. It does have a summer. It's not permafrost there. Maybe you want to base the adventure in a place like the Aleutian Islands. Yeah, you could put hot springs here too. Buddha Belly's at work, so you can't type much. Probably can't regenerate as much either. Could be bested tonight. Uh-oh. Buddha is showing a little bit of a weakness. I don't know if Spicy Larry is still around. It's just... Okay, it's fine. Use his name. So... Alright. So, by the way, while I am talking about islands and we're setting up our adventure here, it's... yeah, as Eltrion said, It's Clark is here, though Clark is sleeping because he shoveled about 3 feet of snow today before going for evening final exams. And he is fortunate enough to have a significant other, a girlfriend. I don't want to define your relationship. That's up to you. But he has a significant other who at least has an interest in who we are and what we do. And so, as not even a first-timer D&D player, we have someone who's just tickling the idea and takes some enjoyment from the things that we talk about, the role-playing and whatnot. So here's our chance to interact with a, I say this tongue-in-cheek, with a normie, right? A normal person, a normie. And we can answer your questions if you have any of us as players, or it's an opportunity if you're willing to take questions from us. Maybe we can ask you what life is like without D&D. Let's see. I'm sorry, you asked actually you did ask a question here. It's under the ocean somewhere, right, Bubonic? Was that referring to technically the highest mountain in the world? Oh yeah. Yep. You got it. Well, Clark. You got it, Clark, and Bubonic made a good prompt. There's an informative video out there on how to craft a fantasy world, starting by where you want the various tectonic plates to sit and which way you want them to move around. Yes, that is very true. King, if you find that, please link it. But think about the geology. You know, actually, we talked about tectonic movement in another map-making video, too. Your plates can collide and both go up, or one goes up and one goes down, or they both actually go down. Some of them slide. You know, this is how you get faults. You can learn so much by playing D&D and doing this kind of research for world building and whatnot. Hey, and there you go. Speak of that.
Good morning, interweb.
All right, I will save this maybe for part 3. Mauna Kea, says Bubonic. That is the tallest, 10,000 meters tall, including the portion below the ocean. Everest is only, 8,850. Very interesting. Oh yeah, and then of course, well, height and depth are interesting forces to consider. And I'm sorry, we left on the Aleutian Islands. You know, these are different island types. You know, here are craters, lots of mountains, lots of snow. How would you want to go about this? So I'll tell you what. Clark, you are the newcomer here. And we welcome that. I will let you choose. You've been here since we've been going over islands. If you, let's just say, humor me. If you were to play in a D&D game, which island region would you like to play in? It could be one of the ones that we listed. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't answer that yet. Do not answer that yet. There are 2 other things to consider. We are in a high fantasy world. I'm sorry. 2 other things. Okay? Earlier, I had Xenoblade Chronicles open. In this game, there are cities on the back of Titans. The islands are actually living beings, like large animals, very large animals, that have societies living on the back of them. And these animals wander around a cloud sea. That is an island as well, in a high fantasy setting. We could do something like that if you wish. All right, this is D&D. Use your imagination. Similar, we have floating islands. Look at all kinds of work. There's all kinds of fantasy work out there. You know, these pieces of earth that just float and become islands themselves. And therefore, instead of it's not necessarily a sea-based adventure. It would be airships, lighter than air travel, magical flying techniques to get from island to island. As we go atop these floating islands. Why are they floating? Magic? Do we really need a reason? It certainly makes a good bad guy, a compelling bad guy, because he just says, I want to make him crash. So what do? So, something like floating islands could be a possibility too. It could be above water. It could be above more land. Maybe there is a civilization below and a civilization up high. Right? If any of these are inspiring you here. Okay, so now we've talked about a lot of different island types that we can run in an adventure. Clark, I will put it back to you. If you were to play in this mock-up campaign setting that we're making, which setting that we have gone over, what style, what climate, really would interest you? And I'll let you make that decision. I don't think we're going to force your hand in playing, because if you don't want to play, you shouldn't play. And I'm not saying that to scare you off, but the whole point of D&D is to have fun and explore. And if you feel intimidated, if you feel like you're not going to have fun, it's perfectly fine to watch others play. There's nothing wrong with that, Clark. Mariana Trench is in the Atlantic, says Caden. It's the deepest trench in the ocean floor, caused by an active fault line, and it is believed to cause crustal spreading. Plunder Loot, hey, just got done with COS, posted your notes. Cool. Very, very nice. I'm presuming you survived Plunder Loot? Caden, okay, nope, good attitude, Caden. Floating islands like in that movie, or anime-based ones. You can name 4 or more, yep. Turtle Dragon Islands, yeah. You could do something like that, Dark Wolf. You know, if you want to use an in-monster manual monster, yeah, you could do a Dragon Turtle Island. You're laying on a castle in the sky pillow at the moment. Oh, cool, Dark Wolf. I ran a campaign that took place in the back of a giant mechanical beast. The world below was in such ruin that dwarves, goblins, and gnomes got together and created this giant beast that wandered the ruined world. But no one in the above world knew its existence. It's kind of like the divine beasts in Breath of the Wild, if you think about it. I kind of like the idea of a world of floating islands with societies on the islands themselves and on the ground below. That's the thing, though. I've watched Critical Role and stuff for a long time. You just don't want to play yourself? No, that's perfectly fine. Children of the Whales anime has an interesting spin on the idea of island-bound settlements. Oh, thank you for the recommendation. I am a bit of a weeaboo. I do enjoy the anime. What kinds of hobbies and things do you like, and what story genres? Oh, Civil Hermit is asking the direct questions. All right, so for being our guest on the channel, for Clark here, you like the idea of a more vertical society in that case. So Clark, throw out then one more piece of information. Are you thinking something tropical, temperate, in a desert, in an Arctic zone? Give me some kind of climate or geography in which you would want this area to exist. You're a music major and watch a lot of police shows. Oh, cool. Are you specializing in an instrument of some kind? Super B stories, greater ones in the store lane, those kind of depths. Eltron, that kind of reminds me of Made in Abyss. You love Critical Role. You're not going to force feed D&D. Yep, that's the way to do it. I mean, is to not do that. You like it and watch it, that's a step. It took me a while, yeah. Maybe the islands are mountains and the ground below is a rainforest? Alright, so the islands are mountainous and the ground below is a rainforest. Okay, we can work with this. So we will have... maybe a bit of a Sky Pirate adventure, but we can include some traditional water routing as well. Let's involve... we'll involve Clark's idea here. Alright, so we talked a lot about different... you have the makings of an investigative bard. Alright, first things first. If there's going to be a civilization or a society, unless it's really super specialized in some way, it's going to need a source of fresh water. If we're talking about a rainforest, it's probably going to come from... Okay, how about this? How about this? Let's use... Whoop, that is not the... I need something a little bit thicker here. Let's come up with something kind of like the Andes Mountains in South America, okay? Now, what this is going to do... What this is going to do is create a couple different biomes here for us. How the Andes Mountains work is, if we look at Peru as an example, there is actually, on the west side of the Andes, there's not a lot of precipitation that falls. And so, you get places like Lima that are in a very arid, somewhat mountainous state, okay? And this happens because the mountains are keeping the weather, right? You get the interior of South America is very tropical. Lots of jungle, lots of fresh water. Because as the weather rolls in or rolls over, right? So if you get humid water from the Pacific, it rolls up the mountain, and as it goes up, it cools off and condenses, and the water falls back down in the basin. Mountains can act like that, or mountains can also just trap weather. So let's say that there's actually rain and other things that come in here from east to west, for generally weather patterns west to east. Anyway, and the high mountains will just trap the clouds. And so only a little bit of the clouds make it over the mountain to rain on the other side, and most of the precipitation is trapped on the interior. And so then we would have a saltwater area. We would have this more desert area here. We'd have our Andes Mountains here, and we can pop up, we can make it thicker, we can put other little miniature bands, though the majority of the interior is going to be green because all the water is pouring back down from the mountains and flowing through the forests. Instrument you're majoring in is guitar? Oh, nice. I can play a didgeridoo, except mine has a big crack in it right now, so I really can't. Eltreon, those kinds of things are always fun, like an ancient worm that's said to live in a trench, and you have to seek him out and help him save the world. Oh, yeah. Or you get spooky stuff like an aboleth. Stretch of arid land on one side and heavily rainforest on the other. You got it, Bubonic. Oh, yeah, I love world and lore building as much as the ability and weapon creation. Eltrain, you're just a creative dude in general. Okay, now, let's spice it up a little bit. Too bad Spicy Larry's not here. We're spicing stuff up. Alright, let's put in... This isn't exactly like the Andes here. In fact, we can even do something... We can have a little bit of fun. Ooh, we could do something really interesting with this right here. Stick with me. Stick with me. And let's give, here. Kind of in a tribute to our special guest that we have in the channel, let's create... So, we're going to make a little mountain here that's in the shape of a guitar. In the center, it's open for some reason. We'll come up with a reason, though it is heavily forested, or we can even say that it's collected water, and it is an inland... it's sort of an in-mountain lake. And so we can have, if you want, even as guitar strings, kind of like it would run down here, and then it would spill out over the mountain like this. So unfortunately your guitar strings might have snapped a little bit, but we can have fun. We can incorporate stuff like this into a fantasy world. There should probably be some kind of a big central lake where a lot of this water is going to end up in a basin, right? We have the mountains that are starting high, and then they're going to be sloping lower. Water takes the path of least resistance and will accumulate at the lowest point and build up from there. So we're creating 3D geography simply by placing water on the map. In fact, now that we have this kind of an environment, let's go to, here we go. Mighty Greedo, welcome. The Van Halen Valley you're offering. So, we do something like that. The Clayton Ravine. Well, the Clayton Ravine along the Van Halen Valley. And we put the Hendrix Hills over here. Is this mountain range known as the Santanas? The purple haze marshlands. Okay. So I think you can all see what I'm doing here. Oh, that's a cool emote combo, Civil. I really like that. Civil says, Clark, I bet you could have an actual Clark try to find or make a quick or casual one-shot. For you one day it doesn't conflict with anything. Maybe something about bounty hunters. You could play a bard or even bring your guitar. I think something like this, when you get a chance, would be a good test to see if you would actually enjoy playing or or if you enjoy spectating. This should have been in our area that our bards went to. When did the bard get kicked out of class? Because he kept passing notes. Badum tis. Ivlon, by the way, can I request hexes for the map of Lacuna? What do you mean, hexes? Clark, I appreciate the suggestion. I'm afraid I'll like playing too much and then get addicted and spend too much on it. Don't tell him I said that. Hey, that's our secret. Although, I'll tell you, as a game store owner, pen and paper role-playing games can be very inexpensive. If you invest in one book, that's 90% of D&D for you. Hexagons? If I find out how to do that, I can try. Pilfer Pup, that is in fact a guitar. And it's a guitar for hashtag reasons. Now you ready? Whoops. Oh, that was anticlimactic. Apparently I'm missing a... Oh, right here. There's our culprit. There's our interior lake. And our large interior lake has a lot of musical note-shaped islands. Eltron's going to go into lurk mode, going to start a picture of another of your group's characters, so you've only drawn the Tabaxi Cleric, with a little of his Spirit Guardian going in the background. Oh, well, if you want to share any of those, you're welcome to do so, Eltron, on the Discord. You see a song note in there? Yep. Everything in there, I was drawing some inspiration off of here. Because I am not musically literate, and I need to be reminded of what this language looks like. probably a little bit here. In fact, we could probably even have a natural cave that goes through this mountain. That could be an interesting place for hideouts. And if water's flowing through the rock, there's probably more spaces to hide in this little mini mountain range right here too. Think about water and how it flows, where it goes. Nobody knows. So water's going to be coming down the mountain here. And you're going to get a lot of waterfalls, a lot of streams. If you wanted to continue this as a map maker, well, it just so happens you put in your 5 bars here, right? Maybe that's what you want to name the rivers. The 5 bars, because they're all running like kind of parallel with each other, right? And who knows? Little musical note islands, right? If we have the Keys down in Florida, if we have the Keys, maybe they're called notes. Maybe they are just called keys, right? You have keys in music. Things like that. Now we're going to have some lowland areas too. You know, estuaries, marshes, that kind of a thing. And so we can even go through and kind of say, you know what? Probably around here. We'll make this a little bit swampy. We'll make it kind of like the Everglades. Kind of around the edges. Maybe a little bit on the interior here. It's actually built up, but it's just so wet. Have fun with it. Think about where the water is. Think about what the water's doing. We can even say that we can call this swamp area here. And so in that case, if you wanted to populate this, right? Let's say that we're calling our 5 bars here. We could even go through and say, well, you know what? There's little hills along the way. And the little hills have trees that grow. And then we just create the hot cross buns islands that are in the middle of the swamp. Go with the theme. Have fun. Does it have to make sense? If you don't explain this to your players as a DM, how long will it take for them to figure out what you actually did? There. We made little musical notes. Yeah, they could be mangroves or something. It's not so much the books and stuff I'm worried about. Instead, you're worried about the minis and dice. I'm terrible at that kind of thing. Oh. You have a collection of fairy figures back home? Oh, my. Maybe you can bring those to the table. Eltreon, also you can get a dice rolling app. That's true. You don't have to own any physical dice. I imagine most DMs would be fine with using an app. Some will say, I'd rather you use physical dice. Most of the time, you can borrow dice from people because a lot of other gamers will have a ton of different ones. 3 years is a long time. There's lots of free resources available, but that wouldn't do anything for spending in the hobby. That is a conundrum. Says the swamp birds. Wow, wow, wow. Whoops. Oh no! Everything we worked for was gone in a single click. Apparently that one's not closed up. So a lot of the mountain water is probably flowing like this, and it's actually feeding the lake, right? Such is the force of the water that is concentrated here, it probably kept pooling here, and the water made its way through the mountain and is helping to spill out, in addition to any of the other things that are going on here. I'm showing some contour lines with our map here. Nothing too big. And so this is low lying, so actually we're going to have the contour lines are going to be kind of, think like a guitar here. There we go. So, what we are going to have, for some reason, okay, we're talking about islands, and we gave Clark sort of first dibs at this. And we started by examining biomes. We went from there. Clark is majoring in music theory, and the guitar is her focus. So we made a guitar-looking mountain, and we're having water flow. This rainforest holds a lot of water, and it's going to have a great lake in the middle of it. Now, for reasons perhaps similar to how mangroves will float and make islands, what we can do, and to play off the music theme, what about this? What if our floating islands are in the shape of musical notes? And so we have these great islands of seemingly random make that are floating above our lake, tethered by the roots that go down into the lake itself. So there's a society below, but there's a society above that float between these musical islands, these musical note-shaped islands. Your world has Gungans? Maybe. I mean, it could be Sahagin. It could be Kuotoa. We could make up people. It could be Nereid or water elves, something like that. Clark, do you like this idea? Yvlon likes it. You're the musician who got ran over by a steamroller. He B flat. Yes, water elves or Nereid. Nereid. Yeah, it'll probably have more swampy bits. Okay, so what we have now done... I thought Nereids were the name for water elves in D&D. I might be mistaken, but like water nymphs are... I know those are more like direct fae. Elves are descendants of fae. Would they be in the MM? Toon Lagoon, says Caden. Nereids and nymphs are different creatures. Yeah, I think they are. I think Nereid is it's sort of like it's not quite a mermaid. It's more elven in appearance. I think they still have their legs. So we can go through and look. We can add a ton more to the map here if we want. We can make it detailed, but I think we have a really solid idea. And I will want to develop this now a little bit further in another. How do we go about doing this? Okay. So we have. Let's file new. What is going on here? Okay, well, my open office. I must have kept it open too long. Kind of derped out. Says the bird. Oh, you're killing me, open office. Why you doing? Why you doing this? I just feel right now I'm far too broke and busy with school to get into a hobby. You know, you spend thousands on. Clark, and I know you're having a conversation on the side. I would agree. It's you're not unaware of D&D. You watch shows about it, and you know your level of involvement. I'm not going to pry into your finances. I'm not going to pry into your personal time. In fact, I don't even think we need to twist your arm because I think that you would play in other circumstances. But right now, look, you have a real life obligation. You know, you have work, school. You know, you got to study there. You have a relationship to tend to. Apparently, you have about 3 feet of snow to dig out of. And you know your own personal proclivities for purchasing things or getting attached to some kind of a collection. Now, there's a lot of good alternatives to think about that are being offered to you. But when you take that step, pop in here and say that you have. I know I'd appreciate it. Now, Clark, do you have a name for this region? What would you like to call a place like this? You know, it could be a region name. Do you want to call the lake something? Do you want to call the jungle something? Throw out some names. You spent too much money on your PS1 RPG collection a few years ago? Oh, wow. What's in that collection, Bubonic? Hey, Derek, it's good to see you. You like one of the suggestions thrown out earlier, but I don't remember it. Well, hey, come up with something. There's going to be no stupid names, all right? If you like something, even if it sounds like gobbledygook. Scarrigan, first-time viewer. What do we... yes, we are doing a little bit of world building. So we started by making our third character of the 5 we're making this week for our weekly campaign building practice. And now we're doing some map making. And in particular, we are making a large lake that is going to have floating islands above it. And due to what we've been talking about in chat, because this is an interactive process, this isn't just a lecture, these islands are floating above an inland lake. There is a guitar-shaped mountain, and so these are musical-shaped islands, coincidentally enough. Now, we've divided the region that we've just generated into a couple different areas, okay? We have our desert area, our mountain range, our jungle, our lake, and our floating islands. We are now going to breathe a little bit of life and personality into these regions, and we're going to do it through random charts, just like we do when we randomly build our characters. And we're going to make them three-dimensional, we're going to flavor them, and they're going to have their own unique things going on. Digging in all the good land of bards who paid some druids to do some mystic floating island tactics. Yeah, that could be a part of the history as well. Maybe it was some merrymaking. If nothing else, elves really like both nature and music and entertainment. It could be a natural phenomena, and it just coincidentally happened to be this way. It could be a lot of different things, and that's the power Scarrigan. That is the pure power of storytelling and imagination. So your recommendation, that could very well be. Or we could take it, we can modify it, we could twist it and bop it and do whatever. The Lost Notes Desert. Well, I am open-minded. I'm open-minded to what you want this to be. Actually, I think we're going to keep that one broader. Maybe there's a real purple haze obscuring the lake, and that haze is what makes the floating islands float. That's a possibility too, Bubonic. Kane says, Civil Hermit, with me living in the middle of nowhere, working third shift, and my wife having the car during the day for her work, I have very few outlets. Clark says, Jimmy's one of my idols because I also play lefty, and my dad wanted me to switch too. Oh. I wasn't far off with Toon Lagoon and Purple Haze. I'm on a roll. Heh. Maybe there would be a lush area of forest where the people live in the treetops like Ewoks. That could, yeah, we could do something like that. Hey, new D&D player here. What are we up to? All right, so Rom and Scarrigan is new in here too. First of all, welcome to the channel. Pull up a chair. We are sitting down at a table in a game store, and we're having a conversation about D&D. That's who we are. That's what we do in this channel. This is D&D 101. We do world building, character building. If you have questions, ask them at any point in time. Either what is currently going on or, oh, I heard about this or that. Can you explain it? This channel is informative and it's a conversation. And you can have input into a lot of the things that we do here. So our current project, Ramzabo, is to build a section of the world into which we're going to have a campaign. So far this week, every week in the channel, we make 5 random characters. So we go over character creation, we talk about storytelling, backstory, and that sort of thing. We make 5 believable random characters. We'll pull them together in a party. We'll generate a map, and then we'll make a campaign. So you as a newcomer DM, or even an old-timer DM that wants to, get a new idea or throw an idea out there for others, have things to think about regarding your own tabletop adventures. It's very interactive. Do not be afraid to ask questions or talk in chat. And yes, as Dorgrim put, we do have a Discord. So you can participate in conversations when I'm not actively broadcasting too. Okay, we have, these are all D20s, right? It's a D20 for random things too about the weird locales, and for about a particular monument that exists in an area. So what I did was I split our map that we kind of just made randomly off of a music theme, because that's what we were talking about with Clark. She plays guitar, so we made a mountain that looked like a guitar. We made some rivers coming off that looked like guitar strings. And there's an entire lake, a huge lake, that has islands shaped like musical notes. However, the lake itself, it might have little islands in it. These islands are floating above the water. And so we have a bit of a 2-tier society. Now, why is it so water heavy? Well, the characters that we have prepared, we started off with a very awesome concept for a lawful good pirate with a bad reputation. We then ended up randomly rolling into a transmutation wizard. Transmutation magic can do things like help you grow gills, breathe underwater, that kind of a thing. And it looked like we were going to have a nautical adventure this week, right? We're just looking at where everything lies. We're shotgunning it out, and we're reading the pattern that was left behind. And so now our third character is a hermit. She's receiving her power from some great fey being. So a jungle is actually really appropriate too, isn't it? Some great fey being. However, she joined on with this crew that we're forming for a pirate ship or privateer, merchant ships or whatever, because her hermit background, she was accused of a crime she didn't commit, and she ran away and she went into hermitage. Well, during that time, she made the pact with this archfey and is now emerging back out into the world. Because of her personality, she's very involved in her own thoughts. To the exclusion of the outside world in many instances. And so, not only could she escape the world by joining a ship's crew, but she didn't have to be absorbed in the modern world around her. She was surrounded by water or sky or whatever we're going to have them sailing through. It could just be her and her thoughts, and she doesn't have to be distracted. So we have three-dimensional characters, a setting, and now we're going to breathe some life into the setting. No, don't. My lips are sealed. As far as I'm concerned, this conversation is just pleasantries. You're asking about whatever. So how about fighting those skeletons, huh, guys? How do you go about doing stuff like that? It's fine. I think we can all. We have entered into a Clark pact. Okay, we're all warlocks of our great patron, Guitar. All right, and we've entered into a pact of silence, and we cannot speak of this. Maybe at a split in the mountain where the lake can pour into the ocean. Yeah, in fact, it could. We could even have that too, right? It'll bring a little bit of life into the desert. That's not a problem, right? We already have a lot of the water on this side that breached. It breached, and there's like a big arch in the mountain here, right? That the water goes through. We can have it come out this way as well. You know, it kind of comes out here, and then here's our little spillover. You know, it's coming down in a couple places. You know, maybe not enough to make the place not arid, but there's a couple different places. And then, of course, that would bring up at least some, like, grassland, some, you know, wildflowers. Things that are going to flow along the fresh water and are going to use the fresh water to live and survive. So, yeah, on our map, we could very much do something like that. If you want in the base of the mountain where there's going to be probably more water, kind of in the crook here, we can even put some trees. We can make this kind of a strip of grass before it gets really arid going out to the sea. That's perfectly fine. Again, think of the weather, think of the geology, the geography. Water is your friend. It will tell you where everything is. Yeah, you know what, Ramsey Bo? That is a good premise for building suspense or a horror-themed campaign, or to have a horror-themed moment in an overarching campaign. That's not a bad idea at all. He often comes in a small port to shore to pick up his next meal. Something like that would be an excellent piece of story to explore. And ultimately, we can have all of this happen. This is our world. We're using our imagination. As a DM, can you explain why something exists? Whether you just say it's magic or you know the geology of it. If you can do that, if you can bring a minor amount of justification to something existing, that is most of what being a DM is. So, Ramsey, that's not a bad idea. You know, that's something that we can consider. Okay, we're kind of in the jungle now. We have an overarching area here. Let's go into, here we go. So, much how we generated our characters randomly and we told a story through them, we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to open up our dice roller. Let's clear it out. We are going to roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to roll 6 d20, and we're going to fill in our region with random numbers. Then we're going to interpret those numbers, just like we're casting dice into an augury dish, and we're looking and we're going to read the bones or the tea leaves or the entrails or whatever, right? We're looking at it. Oh, this is this and this and this. Here we go. You ready? Three, 17. We do not need to know what these numbers mean right now. We are just copying down what the numbers are. Okay? Do it again. 11, 7, 13, 9, 13, and 18. Next up, 9, 11, 12, 5, 9, 6. Again, 6, 20, 15, 1, 12, and 3. Lastly, 11, 15, 10, 4, 18, and 4. Now we have a couple more to do for the region as a whole, okay? We're going to roll 1d20 for our race relations. 1. There are 9 basic races in the player's handbook. I'm going to roll 2d10, and we're going to find out the first number is dominant, the majority. We have majority and minority. Nine and 2. Okay. Ruler status is a d20. 17. And so that's the ruler of this region. And the current calamity facing the entire region is 11. Okay. Let's see what we just did. Right? We have numbers. What does this mean? Ramsey, so these are placeholders. We're going to go now to the Dungeon Master's Guide, and we're going to interpret these numbers, and then we're going to think about the regions based on the numbers we've populated them with which we've populated them. Real Dorgrim, he's generating a random result for the topics after he'll go. Oh, thank you for... Yep, you got it, Dorgrim. What he said. All right, let's see. Monuments. Let's do that because we're on this page. This one is 3. Faces carved into a mountainside or cliff. That's easy to do. 11. Ruined or toppled statue of a person or deity. 9. Intact statue of a person or deity. 6. Intact obelisk etched with a warning, historical lore, dedication, or religious iconography. 11. Ruined or toppled statue of a person or deity. Okay. Weird locales. This is something kind of oddball. Hey, Geeky, thank you so much for the host. I appreciate that. Weird locale number 17. Field of petrified soldiers or other creatures. In a desert? You mean like the Peruvian Nazca things? I don't know, that could be interesting, right? Weird locale number 7. Think about the things you know, that you've studied. You've read in comic books, you've read in encyclopedia, you've been to, you live by. Weird locale 7. Battlefield, where lingering fog occasionally assumes humanoid forms. Are we thinking now a little bit more? This is in the mountain range. What could have happened in the mountain range? We can think of mountain mist and mountain fog. Something happened, though. Why is it taking on humanoid forms? Weird locale number 11. There's a wishing well. Weird locale number 20. A floating earth moat with a tower on it. Well, you don't say. Now, because there are floating islands already, this might mean that this one is... Maybe this is the one ring to rule them all or something, right? Or it's especially attached to the lake. Maybe it's even helping to feed the lake because water somehow pours out of a floating tower above the lake. How could that be? Why could that be? What's going on? Get your brain juices flowing. Connect these dots. We can do it. Even if it sounds so fantastical. Look, this is a fantasy realm. This is our world. Yep, bubonic tieflings and elves. That is correct. Next up, for our floating islands region, or portion of the region, weird locale 15, a haunted hill or barrow mound. Ooh. Alright, we're finished with that page. And by the way, yes, the majority race here are tieflings. The minority race here are elves. And we can even break it down further by saying, you know, we can say all elves if we want, or we could also just go, we'll say odds or evens, high elves or wood elves. So let's just roll a d10, right? Random, it doesn't matter, odds or evens. Evens. So wood elves. If you want. If you just want to say elves and it's a mix, sure. Okay. Race relations. Now this is for the region, right? It's primarily populated by tieflings and by elves. Wood elves particularly. Does that mean we can't have humans? Oh, of course we can have humans and orcs and everyone else if we want. This is just the majority that are living in this part of the world. The race relations, number 1, harmony. This is a place where tieflings and wood elves get together and they live well. You know, maybe the wood elves live down below. Maybe the tieflings live in the floating islands. While they're the majority, maybe that's just where they're at. Or we could flip it, and we could say that the wood elves are actually the ones that live on the floating islands, and the majority tieflings below live on the ground. You know? Yobs, hello! It's good to see you again, Yobs Gaming. Welcome back. Hopefully you are more powerful and stronger and more informed for your efforts in D&D. Have you been able to play, Yobs, since you were talking in Discord? Now, the ruler of this area, who's most likely a tiefling, what's his status? 17. He is iron-willed, but respected. And the current calamity that is facing the entire region, all biomes of this region, was number 11. Economic depression. Trade is disrupted. Ooh. What do they trade and what is disrupting it? Is it, I don't know, do they trade bananas? And is it a poor harvest? Have a bunch of mutant spiders taken over? Have pirates, wink, have pirates been ransacking the rivers and the giant lake in the ocean and are stealing and sinking merchant vessels so no one wants to trade? So this is what we should consider overall. Now we're going to add flavor to each of the different regions of the map that we've just generated. You had a great night of D&D today, was playing your paladin. Ooh, Gauntlets of Ogre Power. Yeah, ooh, swole. Gauntlets of swole. The elves and tieflings had tension. In an attempt to ease the tension, the elves lifted their region in the sky. You got this, Clark. You know how to play this game. There you go. So they get along really well, and that's just because one of them were able to peace out. And, you know, they trade back and forth, right? They have, you know, maybe the roots still have to go down to get nutrients from the lake bed, because the lake bed has silt and muck and stuff that's decomposing. And so, you know, there's roots. And think of sailing on that, right? You're sailing on a lake and you pass underneath the shadow of a great island above you, or you have to navigate instead of rocks. You have to navigate around the hundreds of roots, thousands of roots coming down like tendrils from the sky. Natural, you know, not like arcane Call of Cthulhu stuff, but So Clark seems to have a good idea about what's going on here. The tower on the floating island can act like a public assembly where the tieflings and wood elves... Ramsey, you said you didn't play D&D before, or you're a newcomer. Look at you. Yes, that could exactly be it. It's a part of the lake, right? It's a lake feature, but it's in the floating islands. We play off of Clark's idea that the wood elves and the tieflings, maybe they warred, they came to a truce, and whoop, that's what happened. Excellent idea. Yubs Gaming, there were only 3 people that didn't have magic items yet, so we got to roll first. Me, Rogue, and Ranger. Rogue didn't want at all. Ranger wanted them to literally trade someday. Had to roll against her, almost lost your stuff. I rolled a 15, and she a 14. Oh my, Yubs. And you know what? By the way, while this is primarily, like, maybe the majority here is the lake and the floating islands, and we could even say, like, the mountain range jungle and whatever. If we wanted to, we can say that maybe the desert or part of the mountain range actually have their own people that live on the coast. You know, so the region is ruled by tieflings and wood elves, but there is another minority of race that lives in the desert/mountains that are facilitators, or they're the ones who go out to sea. You know, they may have a seat at the table, but it's really the tieflings and wood elves. So, I don't know, let's say we wanted to do that, okay? We could then even say, so we have ruler status, current calamity. We have a tertiary race of some kind, right? And the tertiary relations are something. So let's go through here and do this. These are great ideas you're generating. What is our tertiary race? Let's roll a d10 and find out. 5. 5 are humans. What is the relation that, you know, they live in harmony? What is the tieflings and wood elves relation with our tertiary mountain desert dwellers? Let's roll a d20 and find out. 7. Harmony. There we go. We have populated a region. Dun 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 dun. In fact, if you want to break this down even more, you know, the rule, how this place is ruled, what kind of a ruler that we want. If it's like a senate, or if it's a king, or if it's a mercantile association. I don't know. It's very secular, right? It's just about trade. We can have it be however you want. It's our government. We can do what we want here. I could add furbolgs, except I'm trying to stick to the core PHB because not everyone has access to the supplementary books. So I try and keep it DMG, PHB, Monster Manual if possible, Yubs. Though yes, the furbolgs are a very interesting race. The desert and mountain range have some kind of ancient connection, both with the battlefield in the mountains and the field of petrified soldiers in the desert. Perhaps an ancient war which led to self-destruction of both races, which once ruled the land. Hey, Ramsey, I thought... You can't just come in here and say you're an amateur at D&D and come up with stuff like this. Come on, hashtag real talk. Okay. So, the ruler in each of these would be like a governor, you know, would be... So we have the desert governor, the mountain governor, that kind of a thing. Volvo, thank you very much for the 10 bits. I really appreciate that. Buddha Belly's kind of distracted at work and is on his mobile, so he said he can't regenerate as quickly. Gotta hit the hay. Hey, Volvo, thank you for being a part of what we have going on here. I appreciate it. Ah, gotcha. Well, you know what? You, Ramsey, you want to learn how to swim? You jumped in the water and you jumped in the deep end at that. This is D&D. Just as much as fighting skeletons and finding treasure and disabling traps is D&D, this is D&D too. Alright, so this is like the desert governor. This is his status. 8. He is a feared tyrant. Okay. Or she. Whatever. You know, it's year 118. We can think this way. Ruler status of the mountain range. The governor of the mountain range is 13. Contested leadership. Open fighting. Ooh. Ruler status of the jungle governor is 12. It is a mysterious, anonymous cabal. Ooh. So maybe the tieflings. I know that Darkwolf might woo for this. Maybe the tieflings, like, they get together, is somehow part of their leadership. Maybe they wear masks or disguises. They're like the masked lords of Waterdeep, or maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's like an Illuminati-like council. Can you see tieflings getting together and having like an Illuminati ruling over the tieflings, or really, you know, a lot of other people? Though in this case, the jungle is governed, maybe because they're representatives sent from each jungle, like, city or tribe, and so it's a bit of a senate. You know, so you have like the city reps and the city senates, something like that. Ruler status 15 of the lake. A doltish lout. Okay, so whoever is the lake governor is very kind of lazy. Actually, think like the governor from Lake Town in The Hobbit. I don't know if that's resounding with you all. Ruler status of the floating islands is 10. Illegitimate ruler. Ooh. Simmering civil war. Not all is well. Maybe we're understanding why there's economic disruptions. Darkwolf says, woo. Ramsey, can someone enlighten me on what exactly a tiefling is? Tieflings are humans. All right, this is a super abbreviated condensation. They're the descendants of humans who entered into an infernal pact. So they're kind of like half demons. Okay, or half devils. They're half fiends. Oh, Dorgrim beat me to it. I was just about to type in a link to D&D Beyond. Thank you, Dorgrim. Your excellent support. Flax Out Gaming, hello. And Cabinet Crunch, hello to you as well. Mass Shorty sounds like, oh my. Yeah, try and keep it PG-13, Cabinet. So, yeah, maybe it's an anonymous cabal. So, the jungle tribes, for whatever reason, get together. They wear masks, go cape and cowl, something like that. You finished your Lancer class today? Need to do the stats for the Wyvern Mount now. Ooh, doing custom stuff. And thank you, Cabinet, for understanding here. I mean, look, I own a game store. I sell comics. I'm totally, you know, First Amendment and such. Though, to try and keep it broad and open and welcoming to as many people as possible, I try and keep the level of discussion at PG-13. Now, when I finish D&D and we slip into something like a role-playing video game like Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, that's when I do put the 18+ tag on the channel, and we can let our hair down a little bit more and, you know, burp, fart, and cuss more than we would normally. You made a gunner class, chemist, lancer, and gambler is next. Well, someone likes Final Fantasy? I mean, I do too. I play 14. I played 11 also. You're talking about like Lancer or having a Wyvern. For those of you who just came by, if you would like to join us also offline, in fact, Flax, if you want input on your creations, myself and others would be happy to look at that over and to give you advice. Hey! Apparently my auto mod is allowing you to say that now, Buddha Belly. I don't know why, and I'm not even in the PG, I'm not even in the 18+. Weird. So it'd be like a paladin being able to use summon mount flax out, so they can summon it or something along those lines. You get it? It's not. No, don't worry. You're fine, cabinet. It it takes a lot to get me upset. Don't worry. You're on the phone. I don't really have an age rating. It's for Twitch. It's either it's an 18 plus channel or it's not. So just by personal request, I throw it out there. Look, you're a newcomer to the channel, and unless you're an obvious troll, I would look. It's not a big deal. Hey, just PG-13, and you're like, yeah, I got it. Whew. We're on it. All right. Notable traits. That's up here. Notable trait 20 of the desert region. Ooh, it is built atop ancient ruins. For the mountain range region, 9. Population, mostly wealthy. Okay. Buddha Belly, Buddha Belly healed from Volvo's departing 10 hit points of damage. Notable traits of the jungle region is 5. Verdant parks and orchards. Okay. They must be growing some awesome bananas, right? Or some Rafflesia flowers or some really cool stuff down in the jungle there. The lake region has, well, canals in place of streets. Isn't it amazing? You just trust yourself to randomness, and this is what we're getting. Notable traits 4. Ooh, there's a large fortress on one or maybe a couple of the floating islands. Next up, what is our region known for? Our desert region is known for 2 rude people. Well, they do have a feared tyrant as a leader. The mountain region is known for 13 godlessness. So very, very secular people in the mountains. Maybe they're very tangible, right? We live on a mountain. The mountain provides us the things we need, the metals, the game, anything that grows, the water. We don't need to look outside at other forces. We're here, we're hands-on, we're solid people of the land. The jungle region is known for 9. Ooh, dark magic. What, by tieflings? In a jungle ruled by in a mysterious anonymous cabal? Oh, look at this, pure randomness and storytelling and imagination and creativity. Flax out, it'll be telepathic connection. The subclass for it worships a dragon god, gains strength, and was born on the same time the Wyvern was hatched. So they're bound for... Oh, his life partner is cool. And the Dragon Knight variant eventually gets a paladin-like self-buff, gaining flying speed, extra damage, and non-elemental breath weapon once per transform. I would definitely enjoy seeing that, Flax. Known for its 12. The lake region is known for its gambling. And you know what? You could probably make a pretty penny if the governor of the place, if he's like, yeah, loosey-goosey, whatever. Just, pay me what's due. Known for its 18 powerful guilds. Well, that might be why there's a rule that is contested as being illegitimate, and there's a simmering civil war, because maybe the guilds are vying or fighting for power. Lastly, we have this is the regional current calamity, right? We have our overarching one. There's an economic depression as trade was disrupted. Every region is going to have a smaller fire that needs to be put out. The desert is 15. Brink of war. Well, we have a tyrant ruling it. It's known there are rude people who live in the desert. And if it's on the brink of war, I wonder if that has anything to do with this field of petrified soldiers somewhere. I don't know, does it? You tell me. The mountain range has a calamity. A scandal threatens powerful families. Well, there is contested leadership and open fighting, and the population is mostly wealthy. You know, so if they're going off of the deeds as men and not oh, please forgive me, gods, I have been bad but I'll be good. If they're being measured by who they are as a person, you know, there could be a powerful scandal it's leading to a lot of this. Current calamity in the jungle is number 6. A plague or famine. Sparks riots. Well, come on. They're just practicing dark magic. What's the worst thing that happens? A plague or famine? Come on. Cabinet, you DMing a new game. What version of D&D? Is this a campaign done by you or scripted? So, Cabinet, let me go back. In this channel, this is an informative channel. This is a discussion channel. It's D&D 101. You know, 201 and whatnot is appropriate. Every week, we make 5 randomly generated characters. We make them believable. We give them backstories. We turn them into people. Into, you know, living, breathing, believable characters. Over the course of the week, we make a map, much like what you saw that we did here. And we'll populate that map. Further in the week, on the last day of broadcast for the week, which it's going to be Friday. It's normally Saturday. We then get the party together and do what's called a SWOT analysis for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We talk as PCs about how this party looks, like its health. What are its strengths? What's it good at doing? Ooh, what's our weak point? Then we'll make up a campaign to send our party through. So this way, you as a PC or you as a DM can take away notes, can even share tips or suggestions. It's an open conversation. This is a medium, not just a broadcast, not a lecture. It's not a me to you. It's an us discussing things around the table at a game store, which is what this channel is. So all of this is randomly done. It's not pre-scripted. I don't know where this is going to go. And it's all an exercise in storytelling. And of course, you know, knowing mechanics and rules. But I want us to all be creative. I want to practice. I want to flex this muscle up here. Current calamity is 3 for the lake region. An important figure died. Murder suspected. And lastly, for our floating islands, the current calamity is 4. There's a war between rival thieves guilds. Well, look, it's known for its powerful guilds. It might have legitimate ones, or there could be 2 or more thieves guilds up in the upper islands. And you want to talk about maybe running a pirate campaign? For those of you who've been in the channel earlier, today or yesterday? Yeah, could pirates be a thieves guild? Heck yeah, they can. Heck yeah, they can. And also, Cabinet, I think I said, but this is 5th edition. Flaxout was continuing about the custom class, heavy damage dealing subvariant, but is designed to be a warrior subclass raised to fight and therefore not so good at social interactions. Well, hey, again, when you get it out there, if you want some feedback, we'll give you constructive criticism. You know, we'll be happy to go over things, and we can look at math and fluff, not just crunch. The scandal is against some powerful religion. As a response to the population toppled the statue of the deity in the main temple of the religion. Oh, Clark is stirring the pot here. Ramsey, for the desert, you have an idea. Used to be a flourishing ancient Egypt-type civilization. It acted as a metropolis central. After a war with the mountain people arose due to tension between trade systems, both civilizations diminished. Then a megalomaniacal event occurred. They needed a strong leader, and a person promised that they would return to their former glory, who's the current tyrant. Hence, they're on the brink of war. For pure nationalistic reasons. Okay, yeah. I think that stuff makes a lot of sense. Okay, I've been talking for a while. I've been broadcasting for a little while since my last break. I need like 5 or 10 minutes. I have some tea I'm gonna drink. So, I mean, come up with ideas, continue your discussions, and hang out because we're not done yet here, okay? We have most of everything done. It would just be talking about, details like what Ramsey or Clark and others have contributed, okay? I will be back soon. Okay, I've sat back down myself. I had my phone going too, so sorry for the misunderstanding on that cabinet crunch. Um, that was my automatic response, as I was even using my own. But Bubonic got you covered. We do normally Tuesday through Saturday from 11 p.m. Eastern until about 3 a.m. That doesn't mean I'm going to end now, because we have a lively discussion. I think there's a lot of things that we can do and talk about. Especially, we're being raided with a party of 2 by Headshots Are Fun. I presume you're a first-person shooter gamer then, Head. RPGs are cool? Hey, well then, I like that attitude. And Cabinet, thank you for the follow. I just sat back down here. Probably be a good idea if I came back on camera. Oh, goodness. Got my old creaky chair, too. Sounds like we're on a boat in the open seas, doesn't it? Hello again. Oh, do you mean Whitefire? Oh, Buddha, you went in on the plains adventure. Oh, donated 10. Thank you so much, Buddha. You attack normally with a +1. You roll it. Yeah, 5 + 1, 6. The giant wolf spider cocoons Buddha Belly 25 and drags him off for reasons. Ugh. Cool. Well, you know what? Whitefire is an awesome dude. He came in here, and I'll tell you, Headshots, I have great respect for Whitefire. He came in and he shared a character origin story that was a first draft. The first draft of anything any of us do is always going to be kind of weird, but I'll tell you what, he came in, he shared a first draft on his first night spending in here, and we were able to give him some great feedback. And you know, he felt a little embarrassed, but ultimately we were able to help him, and he felt welcomed, and he has since contributed to the channel a lot. He's a really good guy, and he already paid his dues by sharing a character creation story with us and having us go over it. So if you're in good with Whitefire, I mean, not that I would be against you for being a part of the channel anyway, but you come with a good pedigree. So yes, Cabinet and Flax Out Gaming, there are a couple chat games that you can see that are going on. And Buddha Belly's asking for a res, please. Okay, so Buddha, you may come out of the temple not as you went in, because we couldn't afford a full resurrection. But, hey, at least you're back alive, and you're a female elf paladin. How about that? Okay, we are in part 3 of the broadcast. What does part 3 mean? Well, we got parts 1 and 2 finished. I made a random character, and we went over a map, and we thought about creative stuff for it. We populated the regions. We're coming up with stories and a history of this place together. We can certainly continue to do that.